Highly successful in the UK, Debating Matters challenges 16 to 18-year-olds to engage in high-level debate about contemporary society. A unique feature of the competition is that students engage in debate with a panel of high-achieving professionals on topics as diverse as drug trials, free speech and terrorism.
I'm Claire Fox, I'm the Director of the Institute of Ideas, and I'd like to welcome you to this special Debating Matters India that's been organised for you by British Council India, the Institute of Ideas and Pfizer, and it's a great pleasure to be here.
Having taken Debating Matters to India for the first time, we are keen to develop the competition, both in India and beyond. This competition, we began it in the UK, not knowing how it would work out, and we did it because we wanted to do something very different from traditional debating.
It's been a really different experience because the other conventional debates which we had actually attended, they were carried on in a totally different pattern wherein a very huge element depended upon your oratory and delivery skills, while here it was rather more on how thorough you are with your matter.
First of all, a very, very crucial lesson which often is bypassed by the conventional debates is because these conventional debates more or less rely on prepared speeches and do not so much give the individual participant a chance to think on their toes and to analyze an issue very deeply. So these skills were definitely sort of got a boost from this experience.
48 schools debated Debating Matters India, and 1,500 students participated directly in Debating Matters.
We all understand that clinical trials are indeed essential for the progress of medical science, but we can never justify the unethical and dishonest clinical trials that take place in India.
Now, why is it we come across a few people who claim that clinical trials affect the weak and vulnerable? Well, each day, hundreds and thousands of people are saved because of the drugs they consume, all thanks to clinical trials. Do you think many of us would have even existed if not for the smallpox vaccine, which obviously had to undergo a lot of clinical trials before coming into the market? No.
But we have to consider both sides of the coin. Today, the companies, the pharmaceutical companies mainly, are keen to cut down on drug development costs and the time spent in obtaining regulatory approval.
Please be clear about these things. You have to differentiate unethical from illegal trials.
You seem to imply that a certain level of bad practice was inevitable and therefore acceptable. Why should that be the case for clinical trials, and if so, what level is acceptable and why is any level acceptable?
We've got a huge number of people who want to ask questions.
Mostly all the clinical trials are conducted for mostly with rural people. Is it just because of the illiteracy and backwardness?
The poor might never be able to afford the very drug they are being tested upon. So give one strong argument to prove that the poor aren't being exploited in India.
You mentioned about the poor being exploited, but what about the vulnerable? Or is it that the poor and the vulnerable are the same?
Biomedical research on human participants is currently going through the Indian Parliament and will ensure that all trials are reviewed by an ethics committee. Could this bill have been moved if clinical trials really did not exploit the poor?
The best thing about Debating Matters is that we really understood the debating matters, because we never even realized that these were such major issues with practically no solutions that people discuss every day, yet they can't reach a solution. Now we understand how difficult that is. So when we go out to become a politician or a manager, it really helps. We have had a range of judges, all prominent. So it's actually a privilege to have met them. And the opponents from each zone, they were just mind-blowing.
We have had very eminent judges out there. And the very fact that we are being taken seriously as 16 and 17-year-olds by them is quite a big thing.
A debate such as this, which covers a wide variety of issues, social, philosophical, ethical, science and technology based, it pans over the mental horizon, making them conscious that these are also some real issues of the world. It has been a profoundly learning experience for me as well, so I am doubly grateful to Debating Matters.
Why do we support Debating Matters? We support it because these are the issues that we deal with every day. These are not just topics thought up so that you can show your oratory or your prowess. The clinical trials one is very obvious. I am Pfizer's spokesperson on several issues around clinical trials where the media are questioning the ethics of the particular trial.
If you take examples of motions like genetically modified food crops or clinical trials, earlier I had absolutely no idea as to what they are. But now I can actually think, okay, this is better or that is better.
We all previously, as soon as we hear a motion, we all have our predetermined ideas and our bias. What this debate has taught us is to think logically, to actually research on what we are given, and to actually weigh both sides evenly, very evenly, and then finally come to a conclusion if we can.
This is not simply a debate about demographies, economic might, and the increasing technological power. An important factor of the natural alliance between India and the US is the fact that they are democracies, one being the largest and the other the oldest.
The second main concern of the future of India is the eradication of poverty and the improvement of the present infrastructure. Poverty is a great concern for any nation, and for a country like India, which aspires to gain a superpower status. Poverty is something which needs to be encountered.
Growth rates in emerging Asian countries have traditionally tended to slow whenever US economy slows. But this time, India and China have not experienced too much decline. So, do you think India is still dependent on US for its economic growth?
We could actually learn about the topics we were speaking on.
British Council is a cultural relations organisation. We're about creating a space for people to come together and learn from each other and explore ideas. I really feel this is absolutely central to the work of the British Council.
The knowledge not on the surface level, but they've just learnt a lot. And I've learnt a lot with them. They've learnt to work as a team. They've come out of their city and they've learned to live with the other schools, socialize with them, empathize with them, and though we haven't qualified for the finals, they have decided to help two other teams.
The question before the panel is, what's the fundamental difference between a war of independence and a war by the terrorists?
Good topics, provocative to think. They urge us to think. The young generation, we are the students who are going to be building blocks of the country in the future. And topics like unity and diversity, problems with respect to caste system, these really urge us to think as to where in our system is the problem and what reforms we as students can put forward and do.
When we're talking about the sanctity of life especially, how can we justify taking away basic human rights from anyone, no matter if they're a terrorist or whatever?
The entire journey throughout the competition has really been a roller coaster ride with so many excitements coming up. We had the best of time arguing, proving our points. It was really fantastic. Our adrenalines were totally shooting up. We were so excited every time we prepared. And even though we've been knocked out, we really don't mind because the experience has been fantabulous.
I cannot think of a better dry run for a lot of challenges that they will be facing as young people over the next few years. I think we're going to see change agents in society, in businesses and universities coming out of this exercise. I think it's just a great way of further building mutual understanding and respect, but at the same time I think it may scare some people in the UK just how strong the competition is from the best young people of India and indeed of Asia.
It's been an amazing experience, once in a lifetime. I really hope we can all be back next year.